He stood at the window of his penthouse on Christmas Eve, surrounded by shimmering city lights that glowed against the sky like 1,000 stars, but Adrian Hale saw none of it. His reflection stared back at him, sharp suit, polished shoes, and a world of emptiness beneath it. For months, he had convinced himself that success could silence the ache in his chest. But tonight, the silence felt louder than the city below. Somewhere in the distance, faint church bells rang, marking a day meant for warmth and family, yet his home sat silent and hollow. Adrian had spent years chasing achievements, believing each new milestone would erase regret. Instead, they only reminded him of what he had lost. 5 months since the divorce, and not a day passed when Adrian didn't wonder what would have happened if he had tried harder, listened longer, or loved deeper. But pride was a quiet thief, and it had robbed him of Emily, the only person who ever dared to look past his wealth. Then came the message. A neighbor had reached out, saying they heard a baby crying inside Emily's home. Baby. The word echoed in his mind like a distant drumbeat. His heart jolted. Emily didn't have a baby. She couldn't. Not unless life had changed in ways he never saw coming. And suddenly something inside him snapped awake. Fear mixed with confusion, and his thoughts tangled into knots. Had she moved on? Had she built a new life in the ruins of the one he destroyed? The weight of not knowing pressed on his chest until he could hardly breathe. Without thinking, Adrian grabbed his keys and headed for the elevator, driven by a force he couldn't name. Hope, desperation, or perhaps a final chance to understand what truly mattered. The cold wind rushed against Adrian's face as he stood outside Emily's house, staring at the soft glow coming from the windows. It had been months since he last saw this place, yet every detail felt familiar. The porch light that flickered faintly, the wreath Emily hung every December, the little stone walkway he once helped her build. For a moment he wondered if he should turn around. He had no explanation, no plan, not even the right words. Still, something stronger than doubt pushed him forward. His hand trembled as he rang the doorbell. Each second stretched longer than the last, his pulse racing as footsteps approached from inside. The door opened and there she stood. Emily. Her eyes widened, mirroring the same mix of surprise and uncertainty he felt. She looked different, gentler somehow, tired but glowing in a way he hadn't seen before. Seeing her brought back the warmth of forgotten memories, late-night talks, morning coffee on the porch, laughter that made the world feel smaller and safer. But before he could speak, Adrian noticed the baby blanket draped over Emily's shoulder. The sight stopped him in place. A soft, rhythmic sound floated through the living room, small breaths, like a tiny whisper of life. Adrian tried to ask about the child, but the words caught in his throat, tangled with fear and regret. Emily hesitated, shifting slightly as though she was guarding something fragile. The air between them filled with unspoken emotions, thick enough to feel. Then she stepped aside, allowing him inside, not with excitement, not with anger, but with cautious acceptance. As he crossed the doorway, Adrian sensed an invisible line between the past and whatever truth was waiting for him just steps ahead. The question in his mind grew louder, echoing through every corner of the room. Who was the baby, and what did this moment mean for the two lives that once fit together so completely? Adrian stepped inside, and the soft sound of the baby grew clearer, delicate and steady. His eyes followed Emily as she carefully lifted the tiny child from a nearby cradle. For a moment, everything paused, the ticking clock, the sway of holiday lights outside, even his own thoughts. The baby's face was round and peaceful, wrapped in a sky-blue blanket that looked new and lovingly chosen. Adrian's voice shook as he finally managed to speak, asking who the child was. Emily glanced down at the infant, her expression tender, protective, and distant all at once. She whispered the baby's name, a name that felt strangely familiar, Noah. The sound of it stirred something deep within Adrian, something he couldn't explain. He leaned closer, drawn by quiet curiosity and growing wonder. When the baby blinked awake, Adrian froze. Noah's eyes, bright and soft, reflected a shade he knew too well, the same gentle hazel that stared back at him in childhood photographs. The discovery sent a tremor through him. He asked again, softly, nervously, if the child belonged to someone else. Emily looked up, meeting his gaze directly, and in that moment everything he feared and hoped collided. She told him Noah was born only a week ago and that she hadn't told many people yet. The air thickened with meaning. Questions tumbled through Adrian's mind. Why hadn't she said anything sooner? Why had she faced this alone? And, most overwhelming of all, what if he had misunderstood everything? Emily gently rocked Noah, her gaze drifting toward the old family photos still hanging on the wall. Adrian noticed one in particular, A picture from years ago taken on a holiday much like this one. The house felt familiar again but in a new way, alive, safe, full of possibility. And as Noah yawned softly in her arms, Adrian sensed that the truth he was about to learn would change every part of him. The room felt warmer than he remembered, filled with the soft glow of Christmas lights and the scent of pine. Adrian sat across from Emily, unable to look away from Noah as the baby rested quietly against her shoulder. Every small movement, every tiny breath seemed to stir a new feeling in him. Hope, fear, longing, and something deeper he had no name for. Emily finally broke the silence, her voice gentle as she explained how the past months had unfolded. She spoke of the surprise she felt when she learned she was expecting, the uncertainty that followed, and the strength she found in building a new routine alone. Adrian listened closely, each word revealing a path he hadn't walked, moments he hadn't shared, choices he hadn't supported. He asked why she never called, why she didn't tell him sooner. Emily took a slow breath as though gathering courage. She admitted that she didn't know how he would react, not after hearing him speak so often about timing, responsibility, and how he wasn't ready for the changes a family might bring. She wasn't angry, she was simply honest, her words carrying the weight of truth. Adrian felt something shift inside him. For the first time in months, he realized how deeply his silence had shaped her world. He had assumed she moved on, but she had instead moved forward with quiet determination. Noah made a tiny sound, drawing Adrian's attention again. Emily held the baby closer, her expression softening. Adrian leaned forward, hesitating before asking if Noah was happy and healthy. Emily smiled, assuring him the baby was thriving and full of surprises. That smile caught him off guard, warm, familiar, and full of memories he had thought were lost forever. In that moment he felt the possibility of forgiveness, not just from Emily but within himself. A thought whispered through his heart, impossible to ignore. Maybe this wasn't an ending. Maybe this was the beginning he never expected. Adrian leaned back slowly, feeling a tenderness growing that he hadn't experienced in years. His voice softened as he asked if he could hold Noah. Emily hesitated, not out of doubt but out of the careful instinct that comes from loving someone small and precious. She studied Adrian's face, searching for sincerity, and finally nodded. With gentle hands she placed the baby into his arms. The moment Noah settled against his chest, Adrian felt his world rearrange itself. Every ambition, every goal, every award that once defined him suddenly felt pale in comparison to the tiny heartbeat resting against him. Noah blinked up at him, wide-eyed and curious, and Adrian smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. Emily watched quietly, her expression filled with surprise. She had seen Adrian command boardrooms, deliver speeches, and shape industries, but she had never seen him like this, soft, still, and deeply present. As Noah curled his fingers around Adrian's sleeve, Adrian spoke, not with certainty but with hope. He talked about wanting to learn, to be there, to understand the milestones he missed. His voice trembled, yet his words carried honesty. Emily listened, unsure of what to believe, wondering if this moment would last beyond the glow of the holiday night. Just then a sound drifted from outside, faint music, neighbors singing carols together on the snowy street. The melody filled the living room, connecting past to present like a delicate thread. Adrian closed his eyes, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years. Emily whispered that Noah loved music, often calming when she hummed to him. Without thinking, Adrian began humming along to the tune outside, and to everyone's quiet delight, Noah relaxed, eyes growing heavy. Emily placed a gentle hand against her heart, realizing she was witnessing something she never imagined, a glimpse of the father Noah could have. And as she watched the scene unfold, a question rose within her, steady and profound. Could this be the moment that reshaped all their lives? The clock chimed softly, signaling the arrival of Christmas morning, though the night still lay deep and quiet around them. Adrian held Noah close, feeling the rhythm of tiny breaths against his chest. It amazed him how something so small could carry so much meaning. Emily watched them from across the room, unsure of what the next step should be. 4 months she had prepared herself to raise Noah alone, accepting that her life would move forward without Adrian. But tonight showed her a different possibility, one she never dared to imagine. Adrian gently passed Noah back to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. He admitted he had made mistakes, not out of lack of love but out of fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of failing, fear of letting someone down. He confessed that success had occupied the place where connection should have been, and he had forgotten the value of moments like this, quiet, simple, real. Emily listened carefully. She wasn't expecting perfection or promises, she wanted truth. Adrian then asked if they could begin again, not as a couple right away but as partners in Noah's life. He wanted to show up, learn and create memories. The hope in his voice didn't demand forgiveness, it requested a chance. Emily's expression softened, touched by the sincerity spreading through the room. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future shaped by teamwork rather than distance. A gentle snow began to fall outside, dusting the world in white as dawn approached. Adrian stood to leave, letting Emily rest. Before stepping out, he looked back at her and Noah, framed in the glow of Christmas lights. He whispered that this night would stay with him forever, not because of shock or fear but because of grace and rediscovery. Emily smiled, wishing him good night, her voice steady and warm. As Adrian walked to his car, he realized something extraordinary. Success had brought him comfort, but love had brought him life. And on this quiet Christmas morning, he finally understood which one mattered most.